tonight on KTN Prime.
The train was approaching. Matatu was, should have stopped it, and he didn't.
The deadly crossing. Death toll in Umoja accident climbs to 12.
Row over cattle rustling, Samburu Morans attack police post.
Another reshuffle. Disquiet as Kimayo announces police shake-up.
Stima zikaenda mara tatu. Then upepo kukimbia wakapata nisha maliziwa ndamu.
And the invisible attackers, why this boy is blaming the spirits for his troubles.
This is KTN Prime with Lindah Oguttu and Kitili.
It has been a busy Wednesday in this capital, Nairobi. It is the 30th day of October 2013. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime.
Indeed, our comprehensive bulletin for you begins now. We begin the bulletin tonight with some late breaking news coming out of The Hague.
It is now looking increasingly likely that the trial of President Uhuru Kenyatta may start in February next year.
Well, that is if the UN Security Council does not defer it for a year.
ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatu Bensouda has, in the last few hours, filed an application saying she has no problem with the trial date being postponed to February.
Bensouda disagrees with the reasons given by defense in pushing for the change of date, but says she will not have enough time between now and November to put together key witnesses.
Well, Bensouda says the witnesses she has been allowed to add to her list may not be available on short notice.
The prosecutor insists that Uhuru's national duties should not be a reason for changing the trial date.
However, Bensouda says she will not oppose the application by the defense.
She, however, wants the start of the trial date fixed to Monday, the 3rd of February 2014. Now, the witness's lawyer, Fergal Gaynor, is not for that decision. We will be hosting him in just a few minutes. He's making his way to our studio. When he gets here, we'll get to talk to him to understand why he is opposed to that decision as the victim's lawyer. That is coming your way in just a few minutes.
While still at The Hague, journalist Joshua Arabsang has asked the judges to allow him to return home this weekend to attend to his 6-year-old daughter's kindergarten graduation.
Later on in this newscast, we shall be taking a closer look at the UN Security Council process and why Kenyan politicians are finding it difficult to adopt a common position.
Well, of course, that breaking news from the ICC is the basis of a big question tonight, and we are asking you, should the ICC judges postpone President Uhuru Kenyatta's case to February 2014?
Of course, that has been the request by the president. Send us a yes or no response, together with a short comment, of course, to KTN, to our Twitter handle at KTN Kenya. You can tweet at Kitili and at Lindah Oguttu as well. You can send us a short text to the number 22155. We will be able to sample some of your opinions during this bulletin.
Let's now move on to some sad news that has been making the headlines the whole day today. 12 people were this morning killed and scores injured after a train collided with a minibus at the Mutindo Railway Crossing Junction here in Nairobi.
Well, the driver of the minibus who took off after that collision has been arrested.
At the Mama Lucy Hospital in Kayole, doctors fought to save the critically injured. 34 of them were rushed here following the morning crash.
We referred 19 to Kenyatta immediately. While he's undergoing treatment, 7 died. We treated 2 who were discharged. The 5 whom we were still investigating and treating, we have since referred 4. There is 1 remaining.
And this is where it all happened. A train colliding with the minibus and pushing it for nearly 300 meters along the railway line. The bus belonging to Umo Ina Sacco was carrying passengers from Nairobi's Umoja Estate to the city center, while the Kubita train was heading to Kahawa to pick passengers. 3 people died on the spot. Witness accounts say the driver was avoiding the heavy morning traffic along Jogoo Road and attempted to rush over the level crossing even after the oncoming train had issued an alert.
The vehicles which were yet waiting for the train to pass so that they could pass. And as a result, is when the accident occurred. The driver, N20 Kidae, is still at ranch. We are looking for him. We don't know whether he was among those who are injured.
It is a noisy circle. And almost every day, 1 or 2 of their vehicles are being arrested.
The Mutindo Junction lacks a railway crossing barrier, and makeshift structures that dot the area have reduced visibility for motorists.
When the train is approaching the level crossing, the traffic needs to be stopped. This is the rule, and it appears that the train was approaching. Matatu was, should have stopped it.
Barabara dereva anapoingia kwenye reli, kuna kibanda upande wa kushoto, kuna kibanda upande wa kulia. Kwa hiyo pia ile visibility, uonaji wa hali ya barabara na kule anakokwenda kidogo ni tatizo.
Hiyo magari japewa pia kupita Buruburu. Na traffic 1 hospiti Buruburu na GTO Buruburu wanafaa kuangalia hiyo magari sana.
Kenyatta Hospital later confirmed that 2 of the passengers who had been rushed there succumbed to their injuries.
The majority of them are undergoing investigations in the X-ray department. There is one who has a very serious injury, a head injury, and requires intensive care. We are trying to get a bed in the intensive care unit to accommodate him.
The driver of the ill-fated vehicle, Edward Gidhai, is in police custody. The mangled vehicle was towed to Buruburu police station, while angry members of the public later blocked the road to prevent Umo Ina buses from carrying passengers to and from the city. But police quickly intervened to restore order. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the defense team for President Uhuru Kenyatta in the case the ICC had applied to vacate the trial date of 12th November 2013. And, of course, the prosecution acknowledges that there are some grounds for such a change and does not oppose the defense application. However, the victim's lawyer has a problem with that. We're waiting for him to get to our studio. That is Fergal Gaynor. He should be here in a few minutes. We will be speaking to him to shed some light on why he is opposed to that decision. Now, amid the growing worry of insecurity in the country, 17 police officers have been moved in what the National Police Service says is aimed at bolstering security. But what is notable, the changes also affected police officers appointed to new positions by the National Police Service Commission. Now, insiders have told KTN the latest promotions and transfers have caused disquiet in the service, with claims that the police boss appears to have rewarded senior police officers from only one region in the country. And as KTN's Dennis Onsarigo reports, major changes are also expected at the Criminal Investigations Department.
The changes that affect 17 senior police officers also saw the transfer of the immediate former Deputy Police Spokesman Charles Owino to a new posting as the Njoro Police Boss.
Lakini wengi wetu tunavunja sheria.
Owino has been the Staff Officer Operations at Police Headquarters and was also acting as the Director of Internal Affairs, a position he was appointed to by the National Police Service Commission. Also affected is the Chief Amara Joel Kitili, who has been moved to Rift Valley Province as the new regional commander. The man in charge of logistics, Julius Kanampiu, has been moved to the Inspector General's office. Other changes affected county police bosses. But it is the transfer of Charles Owino, the acting Internal Affairs Director, a position meant to check on concerns of police officers and their welfare, that is likely to have the National Police Service up in arms. The Commission is mandated by law to promote, hire, transfer and fire police officers, but the Inspector General's office has also been rooting for more powers. The Office of the Inspector General has appointed county commanders, work that, according to legal analysts, should have been carried out by the National Police Service Commission. In addition, it is argued that the county commanders and the officers given other senior posts within the service should have been vetted. There is growing disquiet in the rank and file of the National Police Service over the recent promotions and transfers effected by the service. Police insiders complain that key directorates in the police service do not reflect the diversity of the country as required by the Constitution, since they are mainly drawn from one part of the country. With the Inspector General's office transferring, firing and promoting officers at will, the role of the National Police Service Commission now seems to hang in the balance. The much talked about reforms in the National Police Service continues to be affected as the National Police Service Commission and the National Police Service continue to engage each other in a power struggle. A human head deposited at the Commission's offices a few months ago is still a subject of police investigations. Denson Sariko, KTN, Nairobi.
Right, let's take you back to that breaking news that we brought you at the beginning of this bulletin. It is now looking increasingly likely that the trial of President Uhuru Kenyatta may start in February next year. That is, if the UN Security Council does not defer it for a year. ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has, in the last few hours, filed an application saying she has no problem with the trial date being postponed to February. Let's now bring in the victim's lawyer, Fergal Gaynor. He's joining us from our I&M studios. He is the victim's lawyer. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm hoping you can see him probably on a split screen with us as well.
Good evening.
Sir, can you hear me? There
yes,
we go.
I can hear you, yes.
There we go. Thank you so much for joining us on KTN Prime tonight. Fergal Gaynor, victims representative there, joining us on KTN Prime. Let's start with the victims, first of all. How many victims are you representing in this case?
Well, I'm representing the victims in case 2, which is the case of Uhuru Kenyatta, and that concerns all of those who were expelled from Naivasha and Nakuru on certain days in January of 2008. And our best estimate is that that figure is around 20,000 people. That includes all of those who were forcibly displaced, as well as the women who were raped, the people who were attacked with pangas, the people whose houses were burnt down. It includes all of those.
All right, so the chief prosecutor says she has no problem with that date being moved to February 2014. However, you seem to have a problem with that. Why is it so important for you that this case begins in November this year?
It's been 4 years since the prosecutor was authorized to begin investigations in Kenya. It's been 2.5 years since Mr. Kenyatta was first summoned to appear at The Hague, and it's been 1.5 years since he was committed for trial. A lot of time has passed, and let's not forget that it's almost 6 years since the crimes themselves took place. Now, if trial begins in February, as you mentioned earlier, looks increasingly likely, that means over 2 years will have passed since the accused was committed for trial, and that's an awful long time. There have already been 2 postponements this year. The victims were expecting trial to begin in April, and then the trial start date was put back to July, and then it was put back to November. So it's up to the trial chamber to rule. It's not up to the prosecutor to choose the start date for trial. It's up to the judges to do that. But it is deeply disappointing, I think, for the thousands of victims who have been waiting so long for justice that they are now it looks increasingly likely that they will have to wait a couple more months, subject, of course, to the decision of the trial chamber.
All right, I'll bring you back to that aspect where you're saying it's been a lot of time. But the prosecution says the witness presentation plans have had to be revised. They need more time to organize and prepare their case. Surely they would want to go into this case knowing they are prepared.
Absolutely, and I think what the victims would want is an effective prosecution, a well-organized prosecution. They want the judges to hear the best evidence that's available in the circumstances. So they will certainly support a good prosecution, but nevertheless, I will fully understand if I hear from them in the next few days expressions of deep frustration, expressions of deep disappointment, because they have made those expressions to me in the past. And they're also looking at what's happening before the UN Security Council, and it's time to reassure them that we will do all that we can do to make sure that the trial starts as soon as possible so that the defence has the opportunity to test the prosecution's evidence fairly and all parties have an opportunity for this fair trial to begin and for it to begin as soon as possible.
All right, so the prosecution again says that they may need more time to get the witnesses in court. They may have problems securing attendance of replacement witnesses at relatively short notice. What do you have to say about that?
I used to be a prosecutor myself. Getting witnesses together where witnesses live sometimes on a totally different continent to where the trial is taking place is logistically difficult. It's certainly part of the challenges of an effective prosecution. I think the prosecution have drawn attention already to the fact that the trial chamber's decision to postpone hearing a certain category of key witnesses until February, that decision of the trial chamber itself lies essentially at the heart of many of these problems. It is deeply disappointing that that sequence of events has taken place. Of course, we're all what should we say, sympathetic to the logistical issues involved, but the victims would have expected trial to have begun by now, nevertheless.
All right, Fergal Gaynor, the victim's lawyer, thank you so much for speaking to KTN Prime and, of course, helping us to understand the reasons why you oppose the moving of the trial date of President Uhuru Kenyatta from November 2013 to February 2014. Let me bring in my colleague, Ben Kitili.
Well, away from the ICC issues now, let's now bring you to that train collision between with a bus at the Mutindo railway crossing, which has claimed the lives of 12 people so far. And owners of the Umoina bus have been summoned by Traffic Commandant Samuel Kimaru as investigations into the Mutindo accident begin. But observers are raising questions about the commitment by authorities to reduce the carnage. KTN's Catherine Omando has more.
In April 2013, Standard Group's Nairobian publication warned of imminent danger along the railroad in Mutindwa. 7 months later, those fears have come to pass. The newspaper article didn't elicit action from the Nairobi County authorities, the police, or indeed anyone else. It took the avoidable death of at least 12 people and the maiming of several others for leaders to finally realize that Mutindwa holds a death trap. And leaders gave the same rhetoric.
We are not going to take it for granted because at the level crossing, the vehicles are supposed to give way to the train to pass.
I think we may need to take to enhance our operation.
The rhetoric may not be enough this time round.
When the train is approaching the level crossing, the traffic needs to be stopped. This is the rule, and it appears that the train was approaching. Matatu was, should have stopped it, and he didn't. And then the incident, the Matatu has hit by the train.
2 months ago, when 41 people died in a bus accident in Tulele, there were strong statements from as high as the president's office.
Hata mwenye gari sasa ataanza kubeba mzigo wa kuhakikisha ya kwamba gari lake
It is a state of inaction that goes back many years. In 2006, the Ministry for Special Programs drafted a disaster and risk management bill. 7 years later, the bill has not been brought to Parliament, and yet this is the very bill that could see disaster zones such as Mutindwa transformed. But some analysts believe that even with the current laws, the roads could still be much safer if authorities simply did more to enforce them. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Well, Kenyans will be waiting to see how the authorities do indeed respond to the latest accidents. Now, it was chaos, drama and death in Maralal in the county of Samburu as Samburu Morans attacked the Maralal police station and engaged the police in a showdown over cattle. One person died in the melee and area OCPD was beaten up and another person seriously injured. Here's KTN's Najma Ismail with the details.
This was the scene at the Maralal police station earlier today. Hundreds of Samburu Morans stormed the police station with placards and machetes, demanding to get back what they said were their cattle. Chanting and screaming, they forced their way into the station. At first, police tried to calm them, but they became more aggressive. The situation got worse. It is here that one person now confirmed to have been a student at the Laikipia University was shot dead. These cattle were detained at the Maralal police station after they were allegedly stolen in Suyan area 3 weeks ago. One of them was allegedly spotted at the Marti black market being sold. This prompted the chaotic demonstration. Police had a hard time trying to restore calm in the area, but several tear gas canisters later, they managed to disperse the mob. One person was injured and is admitted at the Maralal District Hospital in critical condition. The OCPD was beaten up and injured by the Morans.
Leaders are inciting these people. They should tell these people to go home. These exhibits are exhibits, okay? I cannot give them. But leaders are inciting these people to come and take the exhibits. How?
The Samburu County Governor Moses Lenen Kulal blamed the police for the death of the student.
We have 2 people who've been shot unnecessarily. A university student leader has been killed. The killer is known, is within these premises.
Interior Minister Joseph Olelenko says the government is investigating the circumstances under which the student was shot, but he is warning residents against taking the law into their own hands. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
Well, the ICC story that is breaking from The Hague is the basis of a big question tonight. We are asking you, should the ICC judges postpone President Uhuru Kenyatta's case to February 2014? Tell us what you think. The numbers, Linda.
First of all, you can tweet us at KTN Kenya. You can tweet us at Ben Kitili and at Lindah Oguttu. And of course, you can send us your views to the number 22155. Would love to sample some of your views just before we end this bulletin.
Well, you're watching KTN Prime. Many thanks for staying with us. And I'll take a quick break. Don't go too far. We'll be back shortly with more. Witchcraft blamed in Mombasa's boy claims strange beings make incisions on his body when he is sleeping.
Wakileta mbegu na maji, sisi tutajichotea maji, tutafanya nini? Maana shida ni moja, vijana Tony alijaribu akatengeza, wakaja wakabomoa, wakaondoa, wakatuachia mashimo. Vijana wakitengeza wanakuja wanashikwa na serikali. Sasa wanataka vipi? Wapo vijana hapa ambao huwa wanatengeza barabara, wanakuja wanashikwa. Sasa tutakao tulete mbegu tupande, afadhali tujue ni shamba kuliko tujue ni barabara.
You're watching KTN Prime.
You're watching KTN Prime. Welcome back to the program.
Indeed, let's now look at a question that so many Kenyans have been asking. So, should Christian church leaders pack guns for the sake of their security during church functions? This is the big debate which the National Council of Churches of Kenya tried to address today. The NCCK says while the police should ensure the security of all Kenyans, church leaders who feel that their security is threatened should follow the legal laid-down procedures for acquiring a gun. Here's KTN's Wilson Mburu with the details.
The National Council of Churches of Kenya met to discuss key national issues, among them insecurity, and with that, this demand by a pastor in Mombasa.
Serikali itoe bunduki za AK-47 kwa kila kanisa. Kila kanisa ipewe AK-47.
The sentiment took the nation totally by surprise last Sunday. Pastor Lambela made this plea at the burial of Pastor Charles Mathole of the Redeemed Gospel Church in Kisauni, who was shot dead in his church last week. NCCK's take:
we call upon His Excellency the President to deploy adequate security agents to the coasts and any other regions where there are risks to ensure that the churches and all residents are safe and that the criminals are investigated and prosecuted. This will resolve the current feeling among some pastors that they should be issued with firearms.
The comments by Pastor Mbela followed the announcement by police that they may be forced to change their tactics in the fight against crime. The NCCK, however, insists that Kenyans pay taxes, which should translate to better security for all.
Government must take cognizance of the fact that Kenyans surrendered their right to bear arms on the premise that the government security agencies would secure them.
Churches, especially at the coast, have been the target of several attacks, the most recent coming when the Salvation Army Church was torched by protesters who are up in arms over the killing of a sheikh in the coastal city. Wilson Buru, KTN.
Talking of church leaders, let's take you to a deeper conversation on the same and, of course, many other issues. Today is Wednesday, and it is day for #JKL. Let's now take you to the Intercontinental Hotel in the city, Nairobi, where Jeff Koinange is standing by with tonight's guest. Jeff.
That's right, Ben. We are live atop the Intercontinental Hotel in the heart of the CBD. And you know, if it's Wednesday, it is Jeff Koinange live. Moments away, we're awaiting the man who many refer to as the man of God. Others, of course, refer to him as the prophet of doom because his predictions are always about doom. You recall he predicted everything from the post-election violence to the Westgate attacks. Well, at least that's what he says. He commands a huge following. His crusades are jammed with people that would make any politician envious. He's coming on the bench today to speak about the state of the nation. Everything from the ICC to what he thinks about the church, to what he thinks Kenyans should do moving forward. It's going to be a fascinating hour, Ben, because I know the tweets are already arriving. They're coming in thick and fast. My Twitter handle is @KoinangeJeff. If you want to keep tweeting your questions and comments. SMS line is also open. That number is 22155. Let's get going. Let's get the conversation going, because you know, when Prophet Dr. David Award shows up, it's a bench like no other, Ben. We'll see you in a few minutes. Back to you, Ben.
Thanks, Jeff. Be sure to join the conversation immediately after KTN Prime. Let's stay with spiritual matters and over to the coast for a bizarre story of a boy who claims that some spirits attack him in the middle of the night and make incisions on his body. Residents of Malandini State now want the family kicked out on allegations of witchcraft, but the boy insists that the evil spirits are coming from very familiar sources. Our senior coast reporter Ferdinand Omondi reports on the residents' shock.
These are the marks that have got tongues wagging with fear and bewilderment in KPA's Malandini estate in Mombasa. Christos claims he went to bed last night only to wake up and find his t-shirt soaked in blood.
Usiku tumesoma Biblia vizuri, tumetandika, kazi yangu nyingine ya soma, stima zikaenda mara 3. Then upepo kukimbia wakapata nishamaliziwa ni damu.
This, he says, is the 7th time he has woken up and found himself with bizarre incisions. Christos says his tribulation started when a close relative brought him from Kitili to stay with them in Mombasa last November. He enrolled at the Shimulatewa school, and in July, he says, strange things started happening. He claims one night, unidentified persons attacked him, assaulted him, and injected him with unknown substances. Only the counsel of a relative alerted him to the probable villain.
Kama aliniambia kwamba jichunge maisha yako yako hatarini, na ukweli Kenya alisema kilitendeka.
The scars in his neck are a testimony to the bizarre tale. Christos claims he has been attacked at least 3 times at school. What is strange is that he does not seem to know when the incisions are made.
School nimekaa siku 2 kuamka vest damu vidonda. Katulia tena nikakatwa tena. Wanaongeza. Hadi mwalimu akasema nitoke skuli kwa sababu ilileta tension, wanafunzi walikuwa wataka kustrike kujua nini haswa kinachoendelea.
After suspension, the assaults followed him home. Again, he says the much he remembers are visitors who come to their place at night, followed by a blackout and then the aftermath.
Sasa jana ndio walinishtua, walikuja saa 1. Saa 1 ndio na stima zikaenda, upepo kama kawaida, kukatwa hivyo.
He claims the close relative has subjected him to all manner of abuse, including being deprived of food. He even cites an incident in which he claims he was kidnapped, threatened, and sexually assaulted.
Nikatibiwa wakasema nilikuwa rape na nilikuwa na vidonda. Alikuja hospitalini kesho yake statement mimi sikuwa najielewa, lakini madaktari ndio waliniambia, alisema kwamba huyu jambazi tudhani amekufa, kwani hajakufa.
Workers here, however, say it is down to the politics of work.
Amefanya mambo ya shauri ya grade, anataka grade, maana KPS inatoka grade. Sasa yule asiokuwa na makaratasi ya elimu ya juu anatumia mambo kama uchawi.
Residents of the KPA estate are now voicing concerns over their own well-being following the bizarre incident. The boy says he has reported the matter to both Bamburi and Central police stations, but police are yet to take any action against the attackers who allegedly strike in the middle of the night. It's an absolutely bizarre occurrence that has left a young man hurting bad and the residents of Malandini confounded. Amid claims that the police are not taking this case very seriously, they now want the suspected witchcraft practitioner flushed out for good. Ferdinand Mundi, KTN, Mombasa.
Ferdinand Omondi there reporting from Mombasa on that bizarre story. Let's move to business news and let me bring in my colleague Joy Doreen Bira. Joy, what do you have in business for us tonight?
Well, we've got quite a bit involving also the fact that we are seeing a lot of fraud. But talking about fraud, Deloitte is actually worried for the East African region, and here's why.
Shocking revelation as $30 million is lost to fraud in the East African region.
My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Time for business. Over 2.5 billion shillings is lost through fraud in the financial services sector in the region. However, according to Deloitte East Africa, only a third of these cases are reported. Michael Karanja has the details.
Despite the threat posed by the rampant rise of financial crimes in the country, most of the crimes in the financial services sector go unreported. Perception, prestige, and customer relations prevent most banks, insurance firms, and capital market players from reporting such crimes, where billions of shillings are siphoned on an annual basis.
That is usually the million-dollar question or billion-dollar question in this industry. It's difficult to tell because until we have a system where all financial crimes are reported, comprehensively, it will be difficult to tell what the actual figure is, except to tell what the perception is. Normally, the feel is that figure is probably just a third of what is actually happening.
According to Deloitte's Financial Crime Survey 2013, 2.5 billion shillings is perceived to have been lost to financial crime in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Cash theft, check fraud, and asset misappropriation rank as the most prevalent forms used to steal.
The way in which the players in the industry are dealing with financial crime is probably not matched with the level of sophistication of the fraudsters and the types of crimes. So they need to invest in the right technology, in the right people, in the right systems to be able to deal with this issue.
In cases pending in court and those under investigation since the year began, 1.2 billion shillings has been reported stolen, out of which only 337 million shillings was recovered.
By its nature, everybody knows banks deal with money, and if they can get a weak point within that bank, within that insurance company, especially banks, then they will be interested in that and try to exploit the loopholes to get some illicit gains.
According to the report, the abundant liquidity, especially in the Kenyan market, has emboldened people to try to get their hands on the money. In most crimes, as little as 10 cents from one account is stolen. Multiply this by thousands of accounts in a bank and it becomes clear of the millions one can get their hands on. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
Thanks, Michael. Now, power generation firm Kengen has posted an 86.68% growth in net income during the full year ended June, helped by a tax credit related to the construction of power plants. The company on Tuesday said its profit after tax rose to 5.25 billion shillings in the year ended June 2013 from 2.8 billion shillings in the year ended June 2012, a period when electricity revenues rose marginally by 3.65%. Its profits were lifted by a 1.15 billion shilling tax credit received during the year compared to a 1.22 billion shilling tax charge incurred during the previous year. Kenjan said that electricity revenues rose to 16.45 billion shillings during the year ended June 2013 from 15.87 billion shillings during the year ended June 2012, while operating expenses also rose by a marginal 3.01%.
So we are going to be developing the 560 megawatts in Olkaria using joint ventures.
To compensate businesses affected by acts such as terrorism. These traders affected by the recent terrorist attack says will help cushion victims where no insurance compensation is available.
For the very first time after the Westgate Mall terror attack, over 25 tenants and business owners met with the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. Their plea, a revolving fund to help them bounce back into business, and answers on who allegedly looted their goods.
We are investors, we have employees who are looking up to us for direction, and right now we don't know what to tell them because there is no information flowing back to us as to when Westgate will come back.
The Westgate Mall, that has since the attack been cordoned, rented space to over 70 business owners who incurred losses through damaged property and goods as well as alleged looting. The tenants expressed concern over the fate of their employees, adding that business has slowed since the attack, yet they continue to pay taxes.
Still till today, the government hasn't released the building back to the landlord. We've lost a lot of business in our other malls, Junction, Thika Road and so forth, just for fear of people going into there.
Insurance companies who since that terror attack have kept aloof regarding the losses have also come into question.
The government needs to stop. They need to put their foot down. They need to let the insurance companies know that we were covered. We were covered for loss, we were covered for theft, we were covered for interruption of business, and for them to hide behind the terrorism clause is not fair.
It is more important for them to get back to business because they create a custom for the future. But turning their backs on the basis of a terrorism clause is not going to help them because it reduces the amount of business potential for them in the future.
The traders want a faster solution and better security around the country to help regain the confidence of customers and investors.
We have two choices, very clearly. Either we do nothing or we do something.
Time for us now to take a look at how the money market is performing and also how the stock market, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, did perform today.
KTN Business in association.
And well, that's it from the KTN Business Desk tonight. Join me again tomorrow for more business. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Over to you, Linda.
Joy Doreen Bira, thank you so much for looking at the business angle for us. Now let's look at a recap of our top story, and we began the bulletin with some late breaking news coming out of The Hague. It is now looking increasingly likely that the trial of President Uhuru Kenyatta may start in February next year. That is, if the UN Security Council does not defer it for a year. ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has, in the last few hours, filed an application saying she has no problem with the trial date being postponed to February. Bensouda disagrees with the reasons given by the defense in pushing for the change of date, but says she will not have enough time between now and November to put together key witnesses. Bensouda says the witnesses she has been allowed to add to a list may not be available on short notice. prosecutor insists that Uhuru's national duties should not be a reason for changing the trial dates, but she says she will not oppose the application by the defense. She, however, wants the start of the trial date fixed to Monday, the 3rd of February 2014. And that big story, of course, formed the basis of our big question tonight. Ben?
Tonight we were asking you, should the ICC judges postpone the hearing of the case against Uhuru Kenyatta to February 2014? Here are some of your comments so far. Katie Baraza says the case is really taking too long to start. Victims are losing hope for justice.
Dennis Mainga says, no, they should not, because we as Kenyans are tired of the case being postponed. We need to see justice done.
Jonathan Kaipun says, no, a very big no. Why postpone the trial knowing very well he should face the law? My advice to him is stop wasting time.
Njenga Mishugu says, it would be selfish for the ICC judges to agree on postponing the hearing. Delayed justice for post-election victims is unfair.
Final one here. Kahodhu says, Bensouda thought Uhuru would not cooperate, thus not prepared. This case is a farce and should be dropped. That's a different view from Kahodhu. Keep sending us your comments on the number 22155 and of course on Twitter. Time now to take a short break, but don't go too far. We'll be back with the latest in sports.
The World Anti-Doping Agency directs its microscope on Kenyan athletes over claims of misuse of banned substances.
And who dares kidnap a government official while Nyeri village is in celebration?
Mukiona lori, mukiona meli, mukiona hata gari la moshi, mukiona ndege inayobeba hii wanyama, piga nduru.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Let's now take a look at what's happening in the world of sports, starting with athletics. And Kenya could face sanctions if the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, proves the country is not cooperating with WADA investigators currently pursuing a number of claims that have been laid on Kenyan athletes. According to the BBC, WADA Director General David Homan is angered by Kenya's seeming unwillingness to present a progress report on the strides it has made on an undertaking it had given regarding investigating the widespread claims. But Athletics Kenya chairman Isaiah Kiplagat has distanced his federation from the claims, saying the agreement to conduct investigations was signed between the government and WADA.
Kenyan athletes have never been on WADA's radar like it is currently. WADA is accusing Kenya of lacking in commitment in fighting the use of performance-enhancing drugs since the issue was highlighted by a German journalist, Hajo Seppelt, over a year ago. The claim prompted a visit by the WADA director, David Hauman, who is now said to be frustrated as no report is forthcoming from the Kenyan government, despite an undertaking it will do so. WADA Director for Africa, Rodney Swigler, told the BBC that the agency is yet to receive any tangible report. Kenya had been given until November to present a report whose contents would form part of the WADA discussions in South Africa next month. Athletics Kenya chairman Isaiah Kiplagat says the case is no longer in the federation's hands.
They are not happy with the government because not us. Don't forget that the contract, not really contract, is the agreement is between WADA and the Kenya government.
According to Kiplagat, AK has cooperated with IAAF despite their own challenges of keeping up with the growing number of Kenyan athletes across the world.
It's only recently that we discovered that there were more than 100 Kenyan athletes in Colombia. We have more than maybe 40 or so athletes in South Africa. We have quite a number in France, and so on. And how they go there, nobody knows.
He's now appealing to the Foreign Affairs and Sports Ministries to step in and sort out the matter, failure to which Kenyan athletes will face difficulty entering for various competitions. About 17 non-championships athletes have been banned since the beginning of the year, while hundreds have been randomly tested. Lynn Washira, KTN Sports.
Story that could potentially dent Kenya's impeccable athletics credentials. Now, in football, the fight for the second slot in the Kenyan Premier League is getting more competitive. There's more or less a two-horse race between Sofapaka and FC Leopards. Sofapaka, who were ahead of FC Leopards by 2 points earlier today, now find themselves chasing the Leopards. Leopards defeated Sony Sugar by a solitary goal today to leapfrog Sofapaka. The Leopards are now on 47 points in second place, 1 point ahead of Sofapaka. Sony Sugar could easily have left the City Stadium with all the 3 points, but were unable to find the back of the net despite dominating the City Stadium clash. They got a penalty earlier in this first half, but Sylvester Wanyama was unable to find the back of the net after David Nyanzi had been fouled by Eric Masika. The all-important goal was notched by Alan Wanga after Joseph Atuta was adjudged to have handled the ball in the box. Sony Sugar now have to win their remaining matches to be sure of remaining in top-flight football next season.
Tumecheza mechi mingi zikifuatana. Na mimi nashukuru sana vijana kwa sababu kucheza mechi kwa siku tatu unacheza mechi, na hii game ilikuwa na shida sana. Mara tunaenda Soni, mara Nakuru, lakini nashukuru sana vijana wamejisukuma vile wanavyoweza mpaka tumeshinda hii mechi. Na kwa kusema kweli naweza sema imekuwa ni ngumu first half kwa sababu Soni wamecheza deep na walikuwa na hold mpira vizuri.
Kwa bahati mbaya ama bahati nzuri kwa FC Leopards wamepewa penalty ambayo ilikuwa penalty. Kwa kila mtu ameona ni Were ameshika mpira kisha referee anatupunish, na ni very unfair. Nafikiria hiyo ni jambo ambalo alifai kufanyika, hasa wakati huu ambayo ligi inaenda kuisha. Kila point ni muhimu kwa kila timu, kwa hivyo nafikiria referees wanafaa kuwa macho zaidi.
Tough task there for Zico ahead. Now, former President Mwai Kibaki is challenging Kenyan youth to take up sport as a way of employment. Kibaki spoke in Naivasha when he teed off the East African Golf Challenge.
The East Africa Golf Challenge provided an opportunity for sports diplomacy as it brought together golfers, diverse cultural gems of Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi and Ethiopia, who are taking part for the first time. Former President Mwai Kibaki urged golfers to fully utilize the regional tournament as a potential employer in the sporting industry.
Sport is an employer, a healthy habit and exponent of the values of work.
It is indeed the biggest golfing event of its kind for amateur players in the East African region.
Kibaki was elated by the huge turnout in the backdrop of the terrorism attack at Westgate Shopping Mall.
It signifies your confidence in our region's future despite the hiccups visited upon us.
Sports Principal Secretary Japheth Mwania said the ministry is in the process of enacting the new sports legislation, the Sports Act of 2013.
The Act creates Sports Kenya, which will bring the management of sports programs and the sports facilities under one roof.
Once the Act is actualized, management of sports programs and infrastructure will be streamlined, as well as Sports Fund, which is expected to generate monies for sports development and growth in the country. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.
KTN Sport.
Right, let's end this bulletin with some security concerns.
Yes, let's. Now, if a government administration officer can be kidnapped, which one of us is really safe?
It all ended well when the assistant chief who was kidnapped in Solio settlement scheme in Nyeri was found in Murang'a County.
That is 6 days after her kidnapping. Now, here's KTN's Central Kenya reporter Karunderi with the story of Chief Pauline Nyambura Madenge.
Relief swept Rehema village in Solio area of Nyeri near Laikipia County when news that abducted Assistant Chief Pauline Nyambura Madenge had been found alive and well. films rent the air when they spotted her approaching in the company of relatives from Gediro in Nyeri, her parents' home, where she had made her first stop. Nyambura was found in Maragua, Murang'a County, where she allegedly managed to contact relatives. The family was hesitant to talk to the media, nor could they confirm whether they had paid the 2 million shillings demanded by the 6 kidnappers or not. Central Provincial Police Officer Larry King and Nyeri County Commissioner Michael Mwangi said investigations were still ongoing, but 2 suspects have so far been arrested in connection with the chief's kidnap.
We are still investigating this case. It is in advanced stage of investigations, and we are not ready to talk about our investigations as at this time.
It has taken us a bit of time, given the fact that this was a very delicate operation, and it also required delicate measures.
Her husband, Zachary Matheng, asked whether the family had paid the ransom. He said only maintenance fee was sent to the kidnappers.
Kawaida, sisi ile tulikuwa tunalipa kidogo, ni ile tu maintenance fee yake, kwa sababu walikuwa nataka akule vizuri, pengine walikuwa nasikia baridi. So hizo tu ndio tulikuwa tunamlipia kidogo kidogo.
Tulikuwa tu tunasema Mungu amsaidie. Na tulikuwa tu tunakuja hapa jioni kwa maoni.
Nyambura, a 40-year-old mother of 2, was unwilling to comment on her ordeal, but had earlier told police in Murang'a that 2 of the kidnappers using a motorbike had dumped her near Maragua Ridge, from where she met a KCSE student walking and asking for help in reaching the nearest police station. And while the assistant chief's kidnap case has had a happy ending, cases of abduction in central Kenya have been on the rise recently, worrying both the residents and security officers alike. Now, in the last 1 year, according to police sources, over 20 people have been kidnapped in the central Kenya region, and this is worrying residents who hope that the security personnel will be able to contain the situation sooner rather than later. Carol Nderi for KTN in Nyeri Town.
At least the story with a happy ending, Lindah.
Yes, she got home alive, safe and sound. Let's look at a big question before we end this bulletin. Tonight we had asked you if you think the ICC judges should postpone the case against President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Quickly, let's take a look at some of your comments. Dorothy says, yes, definitely he deserves this to keep the country straight after all this is going around. That is Dorothy, a Kenyan from Dubai.
Okenyi Aseto says, Uhuru Kenyatta should be left to lead, allow us to sort our issues the Kenyan way in Kenyan time.
Mustafa Ramadan says, what goes around must come around. It's not about time given, but justice delivered to the sufferer.
Those are your opinions. Thank you so much for writing in and for being part of KTN Prime. We'll see you tomorrow. Sleep well. I'm Lindah Oguttu.
Many thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the Standard Group Center. Jeff Konange Live begins shortly.